All right. Welcome everyone to today's session. I really hope all of you are doing well. So this session is a continuation of the last sessions that we have held. We have held one session in part with a couple of schools and then another with more number of schools as and when they receive the STEM kits. This session will be the last session for the autumn term, and it is more of a question answer session with a refresher of lesson 4 on Sonics from as a continuation from the first CPD session that we had. Before we start with the session, I request everyone if you can please switch on your cameras. Seeing each other's faces just makes the session much more engaging. And please don't forget to share about this session on your social media platform as well as the MBOTs. Now next, how this 1 hour, 1.5 hours is divided is firstly Nick will go ahead and deliver lesson 4 with as a refresher from a previous session, and then we will take up any questions from teachers. I know that all of you have received the MBOTs and most of you have prepared it and also started using the MBOTs within your schools. So we'll request you to please have them handy right now as well, which is what I mentioned previously in the email and the last CPD session. So yes, just I'll hand over the stage to Nick. After that, towards the end, when the session ends with Nick, I will take up 20-30 minutes or just 20 minutes to go over the platform and where exactly you can find the course content. Answer any questions where in regards to if you're facing any challenges and difficulties, as well as tell you about the program and exciting prizes that we have, which includes laptops for the schools. Nick, you can have the stage now, and I'll just go away.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks. Yes, no, I'm good. Cool. Hi there. So yeah, my name's Nick. Some of you may remember me from other training sessions. I did an intro session for some of you before. And so basically, now is a good opportunity for you to put questions into the chat now about anything to do with the MBOTs in terms of using them, and I will try and cover any and all of that stuff. I'm going to start off just by going over fairly quickly lesson 4. If you've got one of the robots in front of you, you can have a go as well while we're talking through some of it. So I'm hoping everyone's got a robot in front of him. I know we were speaking to one school at the start and they said they did. So I'm hoping that the other 2 schools in the court also have MBOTs in front of them and ready to be used. But if there are questions you've got, put them in the chat now. And that way I will cover it as best as I can within this sort of short amount of time we've got. Okay, so I'm just going to keep the chat open so I can see that as well. I'm going to focus on a little bit of the starter guide that you're given on the platform. So you've got access to this within your platform. And I'm just going to look at lesson 4. The reason why I picked lesson 4 is because when we talked about the introductory session before, we were looking at inputs and outputs. And the sonic sensor is probably the most complicated sensor on the robot, but you can get it to do some really interesting things. So let me just share my screen. That's what I was looking. Where is the share screen button? Share. Oh no, in fact, stop. Don't want to share it that way, because if I share it that way, you will get some horrific. No, I will do it that way. Sorry, I made a decision and then decided not to do it, and then I've changed my mind. So let's just go to this. So let's just open it up. So if you can just give me a yes or a no that you can see my slides.
Yes, we can.
Good, excellent, cool. So yeah, I'm only on one screen at the moment, so I can't see the slides and you at the same time. So basically, we're going to try and cover fairly quickly what a sonic sensor is, how to use a sonic sensor, and some other programming ideas. This is directly taken from lesson 4 within the resources that you've been given. The resources, if you've not spent any time with them, they're set out with an intro, a main task, an activity. So it's really quite prescriptive in terms of the way the lessons are set out. One of the first things it talks about is what is a sonic sensor, and it explains this in some depth. It's worth asking a simple question to students. what is one, see if they can work it out. But the odds of them actually being able to tell you are slim. Most I've come across don't actually know. So I would just explain this quite quickly on after a quick sort of, a quick an open question, but I'd explain it quite quickly. That a sonic sensor basically is a version of sonar. So that's sonar echolocation. That's the best way to describe it. Even though they look like eyes, a lot of people will say that when they looked at, we talked about that. What did you notice about the robot? They've got eyes on them. They are eyes, but they're not eyes in the way we see. They are not cameras. One is a speaker and one is a microphone fundamentally, and one makes a small noise and the other one picks up the noise. So it's detecting the distance from the front of the robot to an object. It's detecting bounced signals. That's how it works. So yeah, that idea of this diagram is actually taken from the slide of the lesson deck, the lesson resources you've got. So some of it is identified. So that's a sonic sensor in a nutshell. And of course, it's one of many different parts of the MBOT in terms of the sensors. It's just one of many sensors. You've got this sensor bar down here as well, which is line following, and there are technically sensors inside the motors as well, because of course it senses how much it's moved. So, as I've mentioned before, there's a couple of different ways of accessing the MBOT software. This is the way I use it all the time, using the web-based version. It's easy, you don't need to install anything, but there is an installed version if you want to particularly use that. So if I click on that, it'll open it up in a second. In fact, I'll just click on this. Let's switch tax. So this is what we've got. And one of the things you may have to remember is you have to make sure you add the MBOT as a device. So if you've not starred the MBOT device, when you load the program for the first time, it will just load the CyberPi, which is just the computer part of the MBOT, the bit on the back that snaps off, that clips on the back. So if you haven't clicked to start, it will always load that. So you either have to go into the little plus I've just shown you, go to the site, go to MBOT 2 to load the MBOT specific blocks, because all the sensors and the motors are on this section as well. So I would always star it to make sure it loads all the time. And if you scroll down, you'll see lots of familiar blocks to do with Scratch, but down in the shadow there's ultrasonic sensor, and these blocks are specific to what the ultrasonic sensor does. Okay, I'm just going to pause there for a second to see if anyone's got any questions or anything that's popped up in the chat for a moment. Yeah, great. So what I'd like you to do, okay, is do a little bit of prediction. Now, this isn't in the lesson plan, but this is just good computing practice using Prim, which is a pedagogical method for teaching programming. And part of Prim is thinking about predicting what code does. The lesson plan talks about showing this is what the code does, but I want children to do some prediction, to ask them to try and work out what's going on. So this piece of code does something. It does something to the CyberPi in particular. And if I build this piece of code, and again, this is something you can try in a moment, I encourage you to do this in a second, is what do you think this piece of code does? Now, we're only a small group. You're welcome to unmute yourself, or you can type it in the chat. But what do you think this block of code will do to the CyberPi? It does something to the CyberPi. The CyberPi does need to be connected to the robot. But what do you think it's going to do? I will pause and let you think.
I think will it show the distance of an object in front? So if
where will it show it?
So it'll be in the center of the screen.
Yeah, good, absolutely spot on. Did anyone else? Minimize that to go back to the actual screen. So anyone else put it in? No one else put anything in the chat. But yeah, this is exactly what it's going to do. This is going to show in the center of this screen the distance of the ultrasonic sensor. Now, this is worth you doing now. Okay, quickly have a go at doing this. I'll quickly show you how to build this. The reason why is it gives you an idea of how the sonic sensor works. It's going to give you a live view of the value, because the sonic sensor is not, it's fairly precise, but what you will notice is an extreme distance it stops working, but also a very, very close distance is not very accurate either. So it's somewhere in between. because if you get too close, it just doesn't work. You often will get robots bumping into things, especially their M-bot. At a certain distance over a certain distance, it just doesn't work. It won't detect anything because the signal only bounces off over a certain amount. And this is a good little activity just to give you an idea of what is the range of this sensor. So to build this one, we need to grab a couple of different sensors. So distance from object, which is this one. Distance from object, and then we're looking for show label. So this is within the too many tabs open today. Sorry. So this you've got to go all the way up onto the CyberPi blocks. So that basic block there will do it as long as you've connected the M-bot to your computer via cable or via Bluetooth or via the little wireless dongle. If anyone wants me to go over that, please tell me and I'll go over that again, but I have covered that before. And then you need to put this into a forever block because otherwise it will only show the label once. So put into control and put into forever. Here we go. So now, if you create this and click it, what's going to happen? You notice there's no event block at the top. You don't need an event block. You can just click on it, but this will show this at the center of the screen as a small pixel. That's what this is telling it to do. So it's worth, assuming you've got the robots in front of you, have a quick go of this, spend a couple of minutes, make sure it's connected, put this in, and you should see the number change really clearly and quite visibly. And it's a good little activity just to sort of get you and the students and the children you're working with an idea of exactly what the sonic sensor is actually doing and what numbers make sense. So when you put your hand really close, what is the value that it's using? I'll pause there for a second, give you just a couple of minutes to try that out, and then I'll move on. And again, any questions put in the chat. That way I can try and cover those, especially if it's some basic stuff of how do we get the robot and things like that. I'm just going to put I'll leave that up because you can see that pretty well. That is what we're basically making. I'll give you about 1 more minute if that's enough time for people. Please tell me if you'd like. Oh no, a couple more minutes would be great.
Nick, just a quick question.
Go for it.
I mean, if you want to use two bots to communicate with one another, do you need to? Do they need internet access? Like, I mean, Wi-Fi to communicate?
It depends how you're getting to communicate. I've not done a lot of work with that person myself. There is a lesson later on where they talk about it. Yes is the short answer. I believe that it wants you to log on to the Wi-Fi basically, and in order to do it. But there are. I'm trying to think if it will work over Bluetooth. That's a really good question. Let me. So under IoT, which you can see where I'm clicking here, there's sort of abilities to send user cloud broadcast and connect to Wi-Fi and things like that. So the user cloud broadcast is how they do it. I I've not personally done it recently enough to actually say it definitely requires Wi-Fi. It can just do it over Bluetooth. I think it can. I would like to hope that it will just do it over Bluetooth as well. Just double checking. But the lesson, I want to say 8, does spend quite a lot of time in doing that. Great question. Thank you very much for it. Anyone want any more time just having a look at this? Are they happy now with the basics of the ultrasound? They can see the value changing. Just checking. Other 2 schools haven't said much, so I'm gonna presume they are happy. So I will move on. So yeah, so that's giving you an idea of how to do it. And so the lesson will progress. Okay, the lesson will progress. This is using the set of lessons that you've got access to. There's the lesson 8. There you go. Learning how to set Wi-Fi connections, speech recognition. There you go. It is lesson 8. And there also lesson 7 talks about networking. So there you go. 7 and 8 will hopefully answer your question a bit more depth. So this is where the lesson moves into. So once they've had a go at sort of doing some basic programming, can you make the robot move automatically, avoiding obstacles? That's sort of the core idea of what we're trying to do in this lesson. So the sequence I would suggest you use. The lesson sort of does this, but spends time planning and designing what the children think, the students think they need to do. This is where your algorithmic thinking comes in. So before they get let loose, stop them, get them to think, and get them to sort of write down what they need to happen. So I'd expect something along the lines of, well, the robot needs to move when if it sees something, then it needs to react. What's that distance going to be, and how does it react? Something like that. Get them to try and think through the internal logic of the program first, then let them start coding it. That could be done together as a class. You could share code it, or you could get them to do it individually. But the idea of that design or planning step is really important to get them to think before they jump into the code. Then it's about coding, and then it's about testing it. And there's a couple of different ways of doing this. If you're working with a small amount of devices, this is a really good method to make sure everyone's involved. Robots like this, when you're using it 1 to 6, I would say 4 of the people in the group aren't doing anything. If you're working about 2 to 3, you could probably start using this strategy, which is called paired programming. And paired programming basically sets roles for the students in the group. One is the driver, one is the navigator. If you've never come across it before, in a nutshell, the driver touches the computer, drives what's happening. The navigator assists and helps. So neither person is doing nothing in the situation. You can have a third person in it. The third person sometimes is the how do they call it? They basically go and they're the spies, one way to describe it, where they can go and look at other groups and see what they're doing and bring back useful information while it's happening. But normally within robotics, I try to make sure you're working in groups of about 2, just because it's the best number to try and get the most hands-on with the device. So sort of 2 to 3 is sort of the real bare minimum I would try and aim to look at. So if we're looking at this, when I'm not going to get you to do predictions on this, but a solution for this is this one here. This is one that's taken from the lesson plan of this piece of code will make the robot react to a obstacle. Now you could have a quick go at making this if you want to. Give me a sign in the chat if you want to have a quick go of this. But this is using a input on the CyberPi to start things off, because it's quite important actually. Sometimes with that whole when green flag clicked event block at the top that we're often very used to within Scratch isn't a great one to actually use with a robot, because you do not want it to start till you've got it in position. You don't want the wheels to start moving, because often you might download this program. If you're not using the Bluetooth, you need to plug it in, download all the stuff to the robot, and so therefore you do need a button input. So once you put it down, push a button and it will start. And this is basically saying start moving. That's what it does. And then we've got a selection statement here, and the selection here is if there is an object less than 10 centimeters away, that's what it's looking for, then turn 90 degrees left. Now, that's what's nice about these motors. They're really precise, so you can actually tell it to turn 90 degrees. You don't just have to tell it to turn for a certain amount of time. It will actually know the degrees, and then it will move forward. So this is always moving forward, this piece of code, unless it sees a object less than 10 centimeters away from it. So it will drive, if there's an object on every sort of corner, it will drive in a square. This is another example as well, which you could do with it as well. This is just slightly different solution. This also will work. This is saying, if you see an object in front, turn. If you haven't seen an object in front, move forward. So this is using a if else selection statement, but that's just using a basic selection statement. So while they both work, this one is a far more advanced answer because you're using an if else statement. This will still work though as well, but it's just using an if statement. So there's two solutions to it, and you will have to play around with this to make sure you're getting it correct. Because again, that 10 is centimeters. It should work, but you may find things in your room that cause issues, loudness. Other robots can cause interference, so sometimes you have to play around with this as well. So, do people want to have a quick fiddle with that? Do they want to try that out for a moment? I'm just going to go back to the chat to see if anyone's got any questions. Nothing at the minute. I'll give you just sort of 2 minutes just to look at that and just see if you want to have a quick go of it. I'll put up the more advanced answer because I think this is a better answer. This is what I'd be aiming for, definitely in Key Stage 3 and above. That's the answer I would want. I think that's a much better answer than the one in the guidebook. The guidebook's probably aimed slightly young, maybe upper Key Stage 2, where perhaps that's again, it's perfectly acceptable answer. Programming's nice, isn't it? You can have more than one solution, but that's the one I'll be aiming for. I'll give you just a couple of mins if anyone wants to. Again, ask anything in the chat about anything about the MBOTs at all, like, oh, how does this work? What does this do, etc. I will cover that in a moment, but I'll just give you a couple of minutes to try that out just by grabbing it. That green block, if you've not come across it, is in the maths block, or an operators. That's what it's an operators block, and that's the same block we used before in that first little example, and everything else is in the movement section of the MBOT.
And Nick, I've got a quick question. After setting up the blocks, you downloaded once you get the program together, you click on connect to connect the device, and then you get a window that says download. So do the student need to download a file for the device to connect?
It all depends on how you're doing. It's a great question. So if we look here, there's a couple of different ways of connecting. Now, there's a piece of stuff called M-Link, which you may use. I wouldn't use it. You don't really need to use it normally anymore. So normally I would have direct connection turned on. I'd either connect via Bluetooth or serial. That's one of the two things. Bluetooth is one way of doing it. When you click on Bluetooth, it will pop up this black box, and your MBOT, if it's turned on, will appear as an option, and you can click pair. Okay. Now, this won't work for me because I'm not near a robot. If you click serial, it'll do the same thing. Again, I've got loads of serial ports on my device here, but again, the robot will appear as a serial port. Then you click connect. Then it's working live. So you don't really, I've never really used it in upload mode that often because I want it to have a live connection. So when it's a live connection, whatever you do on screen, the robot will do straight away. It's why having it plugged in, that's what serial will come up as. I don't like using that platform simply because it's a very short cable and I want it to move around. So that's why Bluetooth is the way I would always use it. Bluetooth or the Wi-Fi dongle, they're the two ways I would use to connect to the robot. And then when you click, it just works. So if you have an event block, so if you clicked on this one, it would work straight away, or you put an event block on it once you've activated that event. So some of the events, the example I gave you, you can use events for like when CyberPi starts up or when you push certain buttons, but you've also got the traditional scratch events as well. So it depends on how you want to do that. Does that answer your question?
Yes, I mean with Bluetooth, obviously you need an additional Bluetooth device, don't you? Connected to the computer.
It depends if your computers have got Bluetooth or not.
No.
Okay, so yes, to use Bluetooth, you would need it. So there's let me just show you a slide. So this slide here, you can connect via USB, Bluetooth, or there's a Bluetooth wireless dongle thing that you can get.
Okay.
I know I've mentioned the Bluetooth dongle before. I don't know whether you've got that or it's something you can request, because in my school we've got Chromebooks, and the Bluetooth does not work with the software on a Chromebook. It absolutely doesn't work. So you need to use this thing called a Bluetooth. They call it a Bluetooth dongle. It sort of is, but it isn't. But that sort of sets up the serial connection in a slightly different way. So if you're only using, where I've lost you. If you're only using the wired connection, well, that's it. That's all you can do, and you're going to be limited to how far you can work. You can then download it. That's the thing. There is an option for download, which is what your question was getting at.
Okay.
So there's a mode switch where you can upload a program. So if you collect material, click upload, but then you're going to have to make sure the program is set up in such a way that when you push a button, it will activate. If that makes sense. So you notice the moment I click upload, certain blocks grayed out, because you can't use them in upload mode. Like you can't use these two blocks in upload mode because it won't work, but you can use the A button. So that should be doable. But the difference is you're uploading it to the robot, and then when you go to the robot, you'll click a button and then it should work.
Okay.
That is great. Thank you very much for your questions. They've been good. Are you happy to move on? Are you happy with the bits we talked about in terms of playing around? Did you want to spend a minute just playing with that, or you're all right? If you do an upload, you'll need a block at the top. That's the thing. If you haven't got a direct connection to the robot, you can't do this direct drive where you just do something quickly, hit a button, and it just works. So you always have to make sure you've got an event at the top. So when a button is pressed, when the joystick is pressed, if you're using upload mode. But I don't, as I said, I don't use it very often because I don't want that. I want the robots to be live connections so I can do stuff with it. Because one of the nice things which I talked about in the first session is you can turn it into a remote control car using the live direct link. And that's quite fun because there's lots of things you can do with that in terms of creating a program that allows you to navigate around a maze quickly or looking at racing them and things like that. So it just gives you potential for doing other bits and bobs with the robot and perhaps a bit more of a fun context. Are there any questions from the other schools before I probably wrap up my bit, because I think that's probably all I need to say if people are happy with what we've just discussed. So I'm going to come back to the chat. I'm going to come back to the main window. Will we cover networking capabilities? Not at the moment in a session that we've currently got planned in, unless there's a request for more of it. The lesson plans, as I've said, are fairly clear in terms of what they do. So if you want to go and look at that, again, it's lesson, is the networking, lesson 7. So where are we? That's lesson, quite high number only than that. Let's just quickly find it. Nearly there. This is lesson 5. Lesson 7 is somewhere on here. Lesson 8. So this is lesson 7. So again, it goes through it in quite a lot of detail. So it's going to talk about. It gives you code examples of how to do it. Looking at this, looking at the LAN. This is broadcasting robots on the LAN. That's just part of what you've got to do with this. Is it has to be you're receiving messages across the LAN network as well. Curious if it actually says, because the question we were asking earlier. Yeah, that looks like you don't need Wi-Fi connection for that. I know. Yeah, without the need. So yeah, the LAN connection doesn't need Wi-Fi access. So that's the best activity I can suggest you go and look at for lesson 7, and then look through that. And that's going to be the robots talking directly to each other, broadcasting in a similar way that broadcast works on Scratch. Hopefully that at least gives you a starting point. But yeah, we could look at that in a future session. It's probably something you need to request. And we look at that in a bit more depth as a session if you would like to.
Okay, excellent.
But yeah, thanks, Lee. Yeah, it looks, as I said, the lesson documentation is, I think, pretty clear. Any other questions? Because if not, I think we've probably fiddled enough with the sonic sensor. Hopefully people have got a flavour of how it works. And all I've done there is pretty much run you through the lesson quite simply. The lesson, of course, ends with a bit of how did it go, some Q&A, a bit of evaluation in terms of how the coding went, etc. Which, you know, all good lessons will end like that, won't they? Any other questions from any other schools? Because if not, I will stop there and hand you back. Give you another 10 seconds to write a question. I'll stay on the call for a couple of minutes. So if there is a question you've got that you just want to put in the chat, that's absolutely fine.
Nick, I've got one question.
Go.
I mean, it might be very simple. I mean, because this is the first time I'm using MBlock. So once I've got the program ready, how do I? I mean, I've got it connected using a USB cable. So how do I upload it onto the device? So I'm trying to see. I mean, I could see save. I mean, I can't see an upload button.
So when you go, so if you can see my screen still?
Yes, I can.
Yeah. So you've got the device selected. Yep.
Yep, and it's connected as well.
Yeah. Does yours say connected?
Yes, it does. Yes.
Yeah. So have you got upload or live selected in mode?
Okay. Let me just have that. I'm live. Oh, okay, upload. Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so choose the upload, then it should upload it, and then when you go to the robot, I'm trying to remember if memory serves. I do not have a robot right in front of me. I think it gives you a list of programs. It saves it into program memory, and then you can select that program.
Okay. I think I just clicked on upload. I mean, the lights changing, so I think it's in the progress now of downloading the file onto the device.
So that's the thing. Okay. So once you've connected it, click upload, and then it will give you the option to do it.
Okay. All right, that's fine. I mean, I've seen it also with the devices. It comes with example programs, doesn't it? So one that follows the line, and then you've got another one where it dodges the object.
There are example programs. Yep, there are example. There's loads of example programs, so loads of different stuff in the program. So yeah, MBOT 2, and these are various programs you've got within it as examples, which again could be useful as a sort of starting points to show students. Again, it's a nice thing to do. If you're going to use an example program, great. But one of the things that I'd want students to be able to do is give them the example program, maybe on a piece of paper, or on a slide, and get them to annotate what do they think all the code blocks mean. It's really, really key to make sure children have a good understanding of what they think the blocks mean. So it's part of that PRIM idea of PRIM. Predict it, what do you think, and then you run and investigate it. So before you say, oh, just load this, get them to talk about it, think about it, then get them to have a go at using it and go, oh, actually, it does do what I think. Brilliant. It's a really important step in programming understanding. Predict first. What do you think they're doing? Read and predict. Cool. Hopefully that's helpful. Any other questions? I think based on that, I will hand back then, I think. And let localize take back over, and I will just stay on the call for a couple of minutes. If there are any other questions you can think of, that's absolutely fine. Just chuck them in the chat, and I will either come back in or I'll just try and answer in the chat if that's okay.
Sure, Nick, you can stop sharing your screen.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I better stop sharing, really, haven't I?
All right. I request all the schools to please keep putting questions in the chat box. So if, as and when something comes to your mind, with the Harris South Norwood School, I have contacted CreativeHUT, and you'll be getting your kids by next week. There was some mistake in terms of displacement of kids who were sent to another school in the program, but they'll be sent to you by next week for sure. All right, so I'll just take 20 for the remaining schools as well as South Norwood School. I'll just take 20 minutes to go over where exactly you can find all the course content and curriculum and everything. As well as the expectations and the request that we had from all of you was to keep uploading pictures for all the lesson plans that you'll be doing. I'm going to share my screen right now and just walk you through the program outline. Okay. All right, I hope my screen is visible to all of you. Firstly, now when you will be logging into your platform, you will see a restriction in place for being able or not being able to access your account. The reason is that we have added a new detail that all the schools need to fill in the school details, that is related to ethnic composition, that is the number of minority students, ethnic diversity, and all the questions related to that. So that is one. So once you fill in those details, then only you can access the platform currently and all the lesson plans. So it's just tiny update. You can fill it as and when you just log in and you can add those details. Then you'll be taken to the dashboard. Once you go to the dashboard, you'll need to go on registered programs. Under registered programs, you'll just have to click in batch 1. And once you click on batch 1, if I just clicked on it and it took me to this page. Right. Then you'll need to click on course content. Once you click on course content, once you click on the tab called course content, you'll be taken to this section which has all the lesson plans as well as two surveys. One is a pre-program survey, the next is a post-program survey. The reason why we have this survey is that we need to be able to see the impact the program will have before and after um, uh, the students do this program. The questions are very simple. This survey needs to be filled in by the teachers themselves as based on judgment of what you think the level of learnings currently are within your students, based on your own judgment, and don't really need to ask the students to fill up the form or get them to fill the form. And towards the end, there are questions in the pre-program survey itself about what is the percentage of FSM students participating in the program, or very simple questions like student diversity. We also have a section called Introduce Yourself, where we are asking all the participating schools to please introduce the teacher who's facilitating the program, just a picture and the name, their designation. We need this and we request you to fill in this detail because we want to be able to be very transparent and celebrate the teachers who are facilitating this program at a school level. Then we have the introduction section, which Neil spoke about as well in the sessions previously, which is more of a getting started tool. And this is very handy. Towards the end, you have this table. Sorry, you have this table which has an outline of all the description of all the lesson from lesson 1 to lesson 9. Sorry, my throat is really bad. Then we have the section called Share Your Experiences and Activities, where you will be posting pictures of all the lessons that you'll be carrying out. Then we have lessons from lesson 1 to lesson 9. And after each lesson, we have this section where we are asking all the schools to share your experiences as and when you go through the program. And that stays true for all the lessons from lesson 1 to lesson 9. I'll just go on the journal section and show you how the pictures will look like when you will start posting them. All right, so this was one such example of Nottingham Girls School in their journal section, how their page looked like after they went through the program from lesson 1 to lesson 9. And after each lesson, you can see they were sharing their experiences. This was a school that completed the program within a month itself because how they aligned their lesson plans and their classes. All right, now we have the cross-curricular activities where we have the CPD sessions, and you will be able to find your recordings by clicking on any of them, like by clicking down. Yeah, once I'll just show you an example. If you click on this one, say second CPD session, you can see the recording. If you just scroll down, the recording will be right here. We've made this in a recorded format so that and uploaded them on the platform itself so that you don't have to ask us for where the recordings are, or you don't have to constantly chase us for finding the recordings. It is just there on the platform itself. I'm sorry. Right. Then on the user management section, as mentioned, we have this user management section where you can add multiple teachers on the platform as users, and they can start accessing the course content and see the recordings of the sessions of this session, of this CPD session or previous sessions, as well as access the expert talk sessions that we held in the previous 2 weeks for the students. Right, just going back to this program. Then, yeah, moving away from the cross-curricular activities where we have the recordings for the CPD sessions and recordings for the expert talks that we held last week, I'll just move towards the program achievement series. So the program achievement series is where we are asking schools to run this program after term-by-term basis. The first batch was this term, and the next batch will be subsequent term after this, and then the next one will be after that. So how this works is that we are requesting all schools to keep running the program on a term by term basis, and follow the same procedure of uploading pictures after every lesson plans for each of the batches. For example, this was batch 1, and now if I click on batch 2, I'll be taken to a new page where I can access the same content, same pre-programmed survey, same introduce yourself section. But this share your experience and activities will be empty because now you will be starting this with another year group or say another set of students and uploading the pictures there. All right, so this is for the platform and how you can access all the course content. Next, we also have this section. Just sorry. Just gonna stop sharing. Go ahead. Yes, we also have this amazing part of the entire program, which is called the Sustainability Challenge. And for that challenge, we have laptops as prizes. The number that you see on screens, 532, those were just placeholders. And now the amount of laptops for each winning school has increased in number. The Sustainability Challenge is about choosing a challenge, a sustainability problem in your environment that you see, and then coming up with a solution for that challenge. It could be air pollution, it could be anything. It could be the topics could range from air pollution, water pollution, or say waste management, and students coming up with a solution for that and presenting it to judges from Cognizant, the sponsoring company. Each school will be marked against each other. The submission can be made on behalf of an entire year group or just a couple of students working on in a group and submitting it to us. This submission would be in January. The submission date would be in January, but we'd be judging and releasing the names of the winners in mid March, sometime at mid March. So this is a great opportunity, and we request all of you to please get started on the program. A lot many schools that started the program in last academic year, they have already started and finished with the sustainability challenge and given the submission. So I request all of you, who are schools that are just getting started, to please get on with the program, with the challenge quickly, so that you can make your submissions by January, and we can start with the judgment. All right. Now, next and the last part of the entire this demonstration, we have amazing prizes for all the participating teachers as well as students for being very consistent in terms of posting pictures on the journal section or just being very interactive in for these lessons that we are holding, be it the CPD session or be it the expert talks that we had. And for that, we are requesting all of you to constantly do all the activities that has been mentioned in this PDF document. I have sent this previous to all of you, but I'll send it again. So we have points allocated for all the activities teachers are doing, be it joining the WhatsApp group, be it completing the surveys, or be it uploading the pictures or videos on the journal section, or be it just engaging with the cohort on the journal section, or getting your students attend to their expert sessions we held last week, as well as we have certain points for the sustainability challenge submission in itself. So we request you to please complete all the activities, and we are keeping track of all the schools that are following through all of these activities, and they are being allocated points for all of them. Towards the end, school with the highest point will be getting the following prizes. These are these are again very great prizes. We have laptop as first prize, second is an AirPod, the third is an Amazon voucher. So you can choose to either keep it for the teacher, or you can choose it to give it to the school administration to give it to the students. It entirely depends on you. After then, towards the end, we also have prizes for teachers at on a lesson by lesson basis. So every week or after every lesson, we are giving out prizes for being consistent with the lesson plans to the schools. And after you post on the journal section, if you're a school who has given really good feedback or shared your experience really well, if the pictures are really good, then you'll be the selected school for that week or that lesson plans prize, and you'll be the one to receive the hamper for that week. All right, so that was all for me. We also have a WhatsApp channel. I have a WhatsApp group. I have given and I've sent the link on the chat box for all of you to just click and join. That channel or that group is exclusively for letting schools share their challenges with the program that they face, and our partner CreativeHUT is also present on the group, so they will try to resolve your queries, be it technical or software related, or be it MBOT related. They're happy to solve it there on the group itself. It's just a quicker way to resolve any queries. So I request all of you to please join the WhatsApp group for much faster communication. All right. Thank you all of you for joining. Thank you, Nick. The recording of this session will definitely be available on the page that I showed you at, and as well as I'll be sharing the recording after this session or by tomorrow through an email. All right. Thank you, all of you.
Thank you.